following is a paid advertisement program provided by Premier Investments and Wealth Management. An airing of the program is not to be considered an endorsement or recommendation. The opinions expressed are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily of this station or iHeartMedia. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. The information in the following program should not be construed as an offer to sell and is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified tax advisor or legal counsel.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Premier Investments and Wealth Management Program. My name is Doug Wagner, and I appreciate you joining us here today. I'll be introducing a couple of folks who are with me. Premier Investments and Wealth Management, PremierIWM.com. Forbes 2025 Best in State. It's a lot to say right there, and it's important that we say it up front so that you know it. Go to PremierIWM.com. When you get there, click on Get Started, and then from there, just answer a couple of questions. They will provide for you what's called a one-page Premier Vision document. And what this is to find out, am I ready for retirement? Am I ready for my kids' education in the future? I want to participate in it. Maybe I've got something where I've got a second home or a hunting cabin or maybe a nice little spot in the lake where I go fishing. PremierIWM.com. Odds are you don't know if you're ready for retirement or for any of those things. Go to PremierIWM.com, click Get Started, and go from there. Now, let me introduce to you the new sheriff in town. He's Vice President and Wealth Advisor in Premier Investments and Wealth Management. Elias Randall, how are you?
Great, Doug. Howdy, how are you?
Good. Howdy, I like that. New sheriff in town and howdy. That goes together like Shamalama-Lama and Dinkity-Dinky-Doo. Doing well?
That's right. Yeah, great.
Awesome. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Also joining me today, he's President and Wealth Advisor of Premier Investments and Wealth Management, over 21 years of experience in the financial industry. He's an accredited investment fiduciary, and he's the big kahuna. His name is Roger Abel. Hey, Roger.
Thank you for the welcome again, Doug. There's a little bit of enthusiasm not there, but not as much as I expect from you.
Well, you know what? I apologize. It is, you make your transition from one to another. We've got a lot of these to talk about. I got to save the voice a little bit.
You probably just need to load up on that Diet Coke.
Little more go-go juice. Next time, I promise you, there will be more enthusiasm. It'll just be screaming the enthusiasm.
Nah, it's okay. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Hey, one of the things that people really are concerned about is running out of money before they run out of life. And people are living longer. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, well, Ronald Reagan raised the retirement age. I said, well, yeah, had to, because people were living longer, and it's going to keep on more than likely happening here in the future. But do you ever have people that say, you know what, I wish I would have saved less money going into retirement?
No.
Yeah. We both look at each other like, have you heard that?
Says that.
No,
Exactly.
I've never heard that.
No, people, you can definitely, no one's ever retired and said, I wish I had less. I think for people that have done a really great job, maybe they'll feel like they have. I suppose if you did feel like you had too much, you can always spend a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I think people have done a great job. They want to, they want to continue having their lifestyle, and they don't want to run out of money. Mm-hmm. And people, actually, I'm not surprised by this, but people are more worried about running out of money than they are dying.
Yeah.
There's a study quoted here in our outline that 63% of Americans are more concerned about running out of money than death. I actually thought that number was kind of low.
Yeah.
Once you die, who cares?
Well,
your beneficiaries might care, but you're not going to know if you have any money left or not.
No, it's kind of the old saying that there's only one thing worse than running out of money, and that's running out of lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Along the way, because like you said.
Oh, that's deep.
You run out of lifestyle, and you're used to it, and we talk about it a lot. What's ironic about a lot of the retirement numbers that they use, you need a percentage of your income, or you're going to live in 25% less. Well, I'd challenge anybody that's a year away from retirement, just start thinking about your first year retirement, what it looks like, and then you tell me if you're going to spend 25% less than you're spending today. And you're not going to.
Yeah.
you're going to spend 100% of what you're spending today and likely more as you think about how you progress through retirement. So, it does make sense that it's important to people, but I think our goal is to kind of share some of the ways that we conquer and divide and make sure we give people a sense of confidence that they're not going to run out of money.
Right.
Do you ever feel like your financial goals are just out of reach? It's time to take control of your future with Premier Investments and Wealth Management, your partner in financial independence. Imagine a financial plan that's as individual as you are. At Premier Investments and Wealth Management, our team of experienced advisors will work closely with you to create a roadmap tailored to your dreams. We'll help simplify complex financial concepts, provide clear guidance, and empower you to make informed decisions. Financial wellness is within your grasp. Visit www.premieriwm.com to schedule a meeting with an experienced advisor today.
So what we have for you today are some different financial strategies to make sure that you avoid running out of money in retirement. The first one you talk about is keeping an eye on what's called lifestyle inflation. Explain that one to me, would you?
I want to hit on that, but I want to back up a little bit because the number one way to have a good sense that you're not going to run out, in our opinion, is by sitting down and completing the financial plan. If you haven't done one, that's the baseline of all of these things.
Right.
And all of the things we're going to talk about are components of a financial plan. So that's the number one baseline to do, is get your financial plan put in order.
Right.
Then we can move on to inflation. I mean, lifestyle inflation happens quickly. If you look around to people that the better they do, the more they tend to spend. And a lot of times the savings rate doesn't keep up with it. And why I say that, a lot of people believe that if I'm maxing out my 401k at work, then I'm going to be okay for retirement. But ultimately, whether you're okay for retirement is going to be a function of how much you've saved and how much you plan on spending. It's not a percentage of your income. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do agree with that. And for high income earners, maybe maxing the 401k is not going to be sufficient, right? Because you're limited. What is it, when you're under 50, you can do $23,500, and then you get the extra $7,000 the year you turn 50. For some people, that, although that sounds great, I'm maximizing 401k contributions, ultimately it might not be enough depending on your income and your lifestyle and what you're used to living. Yeah. And people don't retire and say, I wish I had less money. People also, the other reality is people don't retire and live less lifestyle. If most people will continue working if they're faced with, okay, I could retire, but I got to live like a hermit compared to the way I live now. They're not going to do that.
Right.
Why would you? Just keep working. You've already been working for 40 years. What's it matter if you go another 5 or 10?
Well, especially if you have to give up the lifestyle. I talked to an advisor, friend of mine. He's like, well, this guy I work with, he planned on retiring, but I don't think he ever will retire. Mostly because he won't be able to keep his current lifestyle. Yeah. Didn't squirrel enough away. So to your point, if you are a higher income earner, likely the 401k, maxing out a 401k for 15 years, probably is not going to get you there if you're making $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 if you're a high income earner or more, unless you started when you were 22 doing it, right?
Yeah, so, if you're maxing it since you're 22, that might be a different deal.
Yeah. So it's why everybody's situation is so unique and so different. And it's one of the reasons, if you think back to 2024, weren't we coining the phrase, this is your personalized financial advice? That's why you need a personalized plan versus just a rule of thumb that's out there.
Get that at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. PremierIWM.com is the webpage where you get started. You can actually make an appointment with them online at PremierIWM.com. Talking with Roger Abel and with Elias Randall from Premier Investments and Wealth Management, some financial strategies to help you avoid running out of money. People are living longer, Roger. That's one thing, obviously. But like you said, the thing, people are living healthier longer too. Back in the days where people lived to 75 was kind of way out there at that point. By then, their quality of life was going down. There's a statistic that you say that the doctors you talk to, they say, what age does my lifestyle start precipitously declining? And you say that age is 72.
72 to 74. Right. Every single one I ask. And it's not where you can't do things. It's just where there's a drastic shift.
Right.
in what people, one, desire to do and what they can physically do.
Yeah.
You know, at 70, maybe you were still running a 5K.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, at 74, maybe you're walking.
Yeah.
And it's no fault of anybody. There's just
Right.
only so much that the human body can do. But that doesn't mean that people are going to not still spend money. Now, I believe that money's spent in 3 phases in retirement. The go-go phase is the first and the slow go. But you still have to plan on inflation being around for the duration, because if you look at the places we have inflation that goes faster than other places, healthcare and long-term care, assisted living, all the things we're going to need later in life.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't factor this in. If you're out there doing this yourself, you pull your spreadsheet out and you're like, well, I'm going to retire in 3 years and I got $1 million. I'm going to get $5,000 a month. You're like, oh, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Well, what happens when the cost of eggs doubles again? Because it will. Over the next 30 years,
Well, that's
everything
the whole thing.
over 30 years is going to double in cost or cut your spending power in half.
That's the whole thing. Is people, they're living longer and the quality of life is better. And that's the whole thing, is that you want to be able to keep ahead of inflation, especially after what we just went through.
Well, that's actually a good point. What if all of a sudden we get some medical breakthroughs that take that age of 72 to 74 where we can't quite do the same stuff we did 5 years ago, and now that's 76 and 78. Well, maybe that's another 3 to 5 years of really great going on vacations and quality of life and traveling and more energy than we're used to. It could take a different set of money to do that, and people can't underestimate inflation. Elias and I talked about this the other day, and one of the deficiencies, I think, with a financial plan sometimes is that we assume every year people are going to increase how much money they spend. In reality, it's not really how it works. I've never had a person who comes into this office, retires at 65, and every year they come in and say, well, the CPI inflation rate was 2.8%, so I need a 2.8% raise.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. What typically happens, people keep taking exactly the same amount, and they're inherently spending less because inflation is eating into what they're taking out.
Right.
But very few people ever increase that dollar amount. But you may have to if you live a longer what I would call go-go phase. If you can make it till 80, doing all the things you want to do, you're going to spend more money than somebody who has this, health / quality of life that's 72 to 74 years old.
Makes sense. We talked a little bit about health, so I'm going to sort of go beyond that one into number 4 in our list here of financial strategies. How critical is it, Elias, to make sure that you have a good analysis of your Social Security benefits? Because when it comes down to it, for a lot of people, they're not going to play a huge part of everything.
So it's a critical decision, and it's once you decide and you file and you do it, then you're done, right? It's kind of you made the decision, and then that's what it's going to be. And I think sometimes, first of all, it depends on your income needs.
Right.
A lot of times it depends on kind of your speculation on what your health will be. And that's kind of a crystal ball question too, because we don't actually know, right, when we're going to pass or die. But for let's just assume you have a married couple, both very healthy. You can probably start to make some arguments that maybe they should delay their filing. That should be part of their strategy. Sometimes it's more psychological, where people, it doesn't matter one way or the other if they start taking it or they wait, and they'd rather spend Social Security than spend their investment dollars. I think it's no matter how you slice it, it is an important decision. And we hear so many, rumors, myths, however you want to describe it, but just a lot of, well, so-and-so said they filed at this age for this reason, and that's the best way to do it, so that's what I'm going to do. And typically that's maybe not true. Most of the time, probably not true for that individual person or unique family.
In a world filled with financial complexity, who will help guide you toward a brighter financial future? Look no further than Premier Investments and Wealth Management, your partner in financial success. At Premier Investments and Wealth Management, our commitment goes beyond numbers. It's about understanding your unique goals, dreams, and challenges. Our financial planning process is personalized to help you implement strategies designed with the goal of maximizing your outcomes. Whether it's saving for retirement, building wealth, or preserving your family's future, we've got you covered. Our mission is to simplify the complex world of finance and empower you to make smart, informed decisions. Ready to take control of your financial destiny? Visit www.premieriwm.com to get started. Premier Investments in Wealth Management, where your financial independence begins.
Well, and that's the nice thing about what you do at Premier Investments in Wealth Management is that you have this all calculated out. So you can literally sit down with them and say, if you file at this age at this time, here's what it means. If you file this age at this time, here's what it means as far as the potential income. There's some significant difference between if you file as quickly as you can and delay it as long as you can.
I mean, the difference between 62 and full retirement is about 33%. Mm-hmm. And for some people, it makes sense to take it early. Others, it makes sense to wait.
Right.
A lot of people want to try to maximize this. I don't think it's always about maximizing how much money you get from it. Mm-hmm. It's maximizing your unique individual situation. Because if you're going to maximize how much money you're going to get out of this from Social Security, mm-hmm. you'd have to know exactly when you're going to die. That's the only way to figure out how to maximize. It is. Mm-hmm. So unless somebody knows that, the chase for maximization on Social Security, it's irrelevant.
Unless you have a crystal ball, Doug?
If you have a crystal ball, you can do it.
No.
If not, figure out what works in your situation.
My birth certificate's got an expiration date on it. Premier Investments in Wealth Management, premieriwm.com, Forbes 2025 Best in State with Roger Abel and Elias Randall. We're talking about some solutions and strategies for you to help avoid running out of money in retirement. Making sure you have a good spending plan. It's something that we've sort of talked about around the periphery about, making sure that you do that. You talk to people about, hey, let's imagine what that first year after retirement's going to look like, and that sort of helps the predicate. But it's an individualized spending plan too. It's personal to each one.
It is, and that's a good exercise to visualize your first year in retirement. What are you going to do? So I think we like to accomplish a few things through our process, and I'm going to highlight a couple of the things that I think are meaningful for people, and when I have these conversations around the spending plan, I want people to know a couple basic things. One, what is your minimum, right? Minimum is just daily living. Yeah. That's your constant lifestyle. Okay, so let's get that. Let's figure out what that number is, and is that going to be something that we can facilitate? And then I also like to define what is your maximum long-term spending number, and it just starts to get people to understand that spending can be crafted throughout retirement for different ages. Mm-hmm. And it also helps you think through, because a lot of people, they transition to retirement, they're very familiar with 4% withdrawal rule.
Yeah.
The 4% withdrawal rate. And that's a good rule of thumb, but that's also like a 40-year sustainable spending number. Mm-hmm. And if you're not, if you don't craft a spending plan that's specifically for you, one of the risks we talk with our clients about is underspending in retirement. So I do like people to understand what's your maximum sustainable number. And typically through these different exercises, eventually we get to what are we going to spend for the first probably 12, 15 years? Because that's going to be a big chunk. Because that's when you're really going to be traveling, updating your vehicles. Yeah, the go-go phase, we refer to it as. So hopefully through that process of walking through these different steps, then we can really define what do you want to spend now for potentially the next decade or 15 years, and hopefully not be overspending. But I think that maximum number gives people a good buffer of their range that they should be in.
Roger Abel, before we move forward, did you ever have people who are just like, they're so stingy, they just don't want to spend anything out of their retirement, and it almost cramps their lifestyle?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And there are certain people, even we can walk them through this planning process and show them or demonstrate to them how much they can spend and that they're likely never going to spend this.
Right.
They still can't get it out of their mind. And part of it is they're really, really good savers. We're really, really frugal along the way. So just imagine for 40 years, You've been told you can't touch this. Like, I'm just adding to it. And then all of a sudden one day they're like, oh yeah, by the way, crack this piggy bank open and start using it. Like, it's a big mental shift to go from accumulation to distribution for a lot of people. I think many people wouldn't tell you this, but it's probably one of the things they struggle with the most is the psychological shift from busting the piggy bank. I can name 5 people right now without even thinking about it that just, they are paralyzed by the idea of running out, regardless of how much we work with them and demonstrate to them.
And this is something where it's not just about dollars and cents for you. You're actually working with the psyche of people. I mean, you're working with them in order to make sure that they're fully well prepared to enjoy a retirement so that they can go to visit the grandkids.
That's probably most of what we do.
Yeah.
Is, try to help people understand their relationship with money and then help them understand what habits are going to make them successful and have us help guide their boat or ship along the way.
Yeah.
To keep them on the straight and narrow.
Something that I didn't recognize until I grew up and started adulting and really started talking to you guys about this is that the ability of you have to continue investing even into retirement. And because I remember when I was a kid, it was like the idea that life was nasty, brutish, and short, and you just had what little bit you were able to squirrel away plus Social Security, and then you died. And now you've got so many people living so much longer that making sure that they continue to invest. Otherwise, man, you're going to run out of money real quick.
So is that the way you were brought up, Doug?
Yeah.
Okay, so I actually think I understand why that may have happened. Part of it's due to the massive shift happening in how people provide for their retirement. Where did your parents work?
Dad was a laborer in town.
So he had a pension. So you had a pension, right?
Yeah.
Brad had a pension. So there's a entire percentage of this population that their parents had a pension. Their parents didn't know what a 401k was. A Roth IRA didn't exist.
Yeah.
There was nobody to teach that generation about 401ks, Roth IRAs, and investing on their own. In fact, my parents' generation, most of it, they learned on their own. Now, what's happened? Individuals my age, our parents don't have pensions. So we've been taught you need to save because you're going to provide for your retirement. And we've talked about this gap, which is going to be interesting to see because you're kind of in the gap.
Yeah.
Your parents weren't able to teach you. My parents were able to teach me because they're more similar to your age. Not that you're old, but they're within a decade or so.
My dad would have been 100 this year. So this is really important is that, for them, they pulled money out of the market, and if they had money there, they did it intentionally because they watched twice the United States markets just crash and burn.
And and your parents, for the most part, weren't invested for most of their life. They probably got some later in life.
Right.
My dad's parents, they had pension. His grandparents had a pension. So it's this big shift in responsibility for retirement. And I'll be curious to see what happens if there's this kind of lost gap of people that did a poor job saving for retirement.
Yeah.
And then we have a resurgence with individuals around my age because we've understood the importance of it because we've either seen our parents be successful or fail. If you're 20, if 40 years ago, so in the 1980s, you went to an employer that just got rid of the pension because the 401k came out late 80s? Somewhere in there.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was
It
to
was in the
supplement the
80s.
pension. Either way, it was 40-ish years ago. Well, do you think people adopt new things right away?
No.
They wait. So now all of a sudden they're 40. They're like, wait a minute, I haven't saved anything. How do I retire? Now they're trying to learn this on their own. Roth IRAs didn't come out until the 90s. No opportunity for a Roth IRA where my generation, from the day I started working, a Roth IRA has been eligible. I've been eligible for a Roth.
Yeah.
I've never been eligible for a pension. Been able to do a 401k. And my parents, because they've been through it, were able to teach us the importance of that.
Yeah. It's critical. One of the things that's really critical is that you make sure that you follow the words of that old Journey song, Don't Stop Investing. Elias Randall.
Journey sang that?
Yeah, you heard that one. Don't stop, invest. Yeah.
There you go.
Two of these left, but one I'm just going to sort of gloss over. Don't ignore tax planning strategies, and that's something that you need to have a personalized plan to make sure that you're working with your financial professional about that. But the final thing I wanted to hit here, Elias, is work a little bit longer before retiring. And there are some people that they really just can't wait to get out of their job, whatever it is. Then there are people like me who I really enjoy what I do, and I'll work as long as I can, and I've got no issue with that. What's the big difference as far as working just a little bit longer and retiring, and what can do?
Well, sometimes people need to work a little bit longer to reach financial independence or reach their goals or have enough money to live off of that money. And there are people who choose to work a little bit longer. They've been able to retire, but they, like you just said, they enjoy their career. They don't want to give it up yet. So there's a few good things, and a few things that make it easier to retire if you work a little bit longer. Well, you're taking less money out, right? So let's say you're 60 today, and you're thinking about retiring today or work until 65.
Yeah.
It's 5 more years that you saved money. It's 5 years less of taking money out. So it can do a few things. One, it can increase the amount you can spend at that later date. It can also just increase your overall opportunity for success by working a little bit longer. But the one thing I'll say, if there's someone listening and you're not sure whether you should continue working or you want to retire, but you don't really know if you can, because I'm a big believer in you should know, one, do you have enough to retire? And if you do, then I guess what is keeping you going to work? Because if it's fear of, well, I don't know how to turn this into income, or I don't know how to do a distribution strategy,
right?
Financial professionals can help you with all that fine tuning. So if it's really just an unknown, you should work with someone to figure out, well, can I actually just be done working?
And
30 seconds.
For some people, the unknown is, what am I going to do with my time?
Yeah.
It's not always money. Like, you may have quantified that. If you don't know what you're going to do, that's actually a valid reason to keep working until you dial that in, because otherwise you might have this massive void in your life. You're missing the camaraderie, the sense of community, and all the self-worth that you've built up at this job or employer.
Right. And also, you can transition, slowly transition to retirement, retire part-time if you want to. Go to premieriwm.com. You can get in touch with them very easily. Make that appointment online for this Forbes 2025 Best in State firm at Premier Investments and Wealth Management, or you can call to make your appointment today.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Premier Investments and Wealth Management and LPL Financial do not provide tax advice. Please consult your tax professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. There's no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. All performance referenced is historical and is not a guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal. Forbes Best in State Wealth Management Team's ranking was developed by Shook Research and is based on in-person, virtual, and telephone due diligence meetings and a ranking algorithm that includes a measure of each team's best practices, client retention, industry experience, review of compliance records, firm nominations, and quantitative criteria, including assets under management and revenue generated for their firms. Investment performance is not a criterion because client objectives and risk tolerances vary, and advisors rarely have audited performance reports. Shook's research and rankings provide opinions intended to help investors choose the right financial advisor and team, and are not indicative of future performance or representative of any one client's experience. Past performance is not an indication of future results. Neither Forbes nor Shook Research received compensation in exchange for placement on the ranking. For more information, please see www.shookresearch.com. Shook is a registered trademark of Shook Research, LLC.